Good afternoon, everyone. Today is October 10th, and we're going to be interviewing Mr. Greg Faulcon, a Medicare agent, local and national. He is licensed, and he's going to tell us about what inspires him, what he did growing up, and what he does to motivate himself. So, Greg, what can you tell me about your background?
Sure, John, no problem. Baltimore guy, born and raised. Grew up in Baltimore City. From my elementary years, middle school years, moved to Baltimore County to graduate high school. Shortly after high school, had a child at a young age 19. It made me grow up a little fast. I had to get out and provide for my family. Started a career in law enforcement as a cadet. Spent about 4 or 5 years in the law enforcement arena, early 90s. 1994 time frame. Unfortunately, lost my mom to an aneurysm, and that caused me to have to raise my younger brothers. At that time, decided to take a job, what I thought it was a regular job in banking for more consistent hours, daytime hours, and was at Provident Bank, which is now M&T, from 95 until about 2004. Various positions there. In the branch network, also in operations and security area. From 2004 to 2006, went over to Andrews Federal Credit Union as a security manager, and decided that commute from Harford County to PG County was just a bit far. Went back to Provident Bank from 06 to 08. In 08, unfortunately, was let go from Provident Bank. So I was unemployed for about 14 months. Was able to land back on my feet, fortunately, in the federal government space in 2009. But that window of time in 2008 where I was unemployed really had to do some soul searching, right? Had to figure out, next steps, how I was going to provide for myself and my family. Was very close at that time, well, literally between the passing of my mom in 1994. My grandmother pretty much stepped in and played that role as mom. So during that summer of 08, being unemployed, had a lot of free time, spent a lot of time with her, right? Just kind of soaking in that knowledge from an elderly, counsel and her. We spent a lot of time talking about, pretty much everything in life, right? She tried to keep me grounded spiritually, saying, hey, things are going to work out. She was always that positive reinforcement for me. From childhood on up through her time of passing. But what kind of pushed me in this space of Medicare insurance plans, at that time, she was paying roughly $300 a month for a Medicare supplement plan. Great coverage. It got her to her various specialists and different medical appointments. The challenge, John, for her became unaffordable, right? She wasn't doing the things that she was used to doing. Right. After church, she would go to dinner with friends. She would take church trips throughout the year, but it just became challenging because those plans increase incrementally every year. And I remember vividly us having a conversation around her saying, "Hey, this is getting to be too much." Long story short, I was able to find her a plan that was very comparable to what she had, that saved her about $125 a month. Which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but for a senior on a fixed income, it was game changing for her. So I felt, like, hey, this is a needed thing, right? As far as other seniors, right, that need not only the information, but they need it from a trusted source. So that kind of lit my fire to say, hey, I can continue growing this thing out, right? But doing it in an ethical manner. Making clear to people that, hey, whether you do business with me or not, find that guided or trusted source for reliable information that can give it to you straight, no pressure, no fluff, without trying to twist your arm, and evaluating what you need, have that consultation of where you are. It gets really individualized for folks. And, my why is literally educating them on how to navigate leaving the job group plan, entering onboarding and original Medicare, and then after that, finding plans that are both affordable and above all, they're meeting their health needs for them as individuals.
So let me ask you something. You said that you were raised by you raised your brothers, and you have how many siblings do you have?
So I have two younger half brothers. They at the time, my mom passed in '94 at 41 years old. Devastating, man. I was 21, 22 years old. Their dad, unfortunately, at that same time was incarcerated. So I was faced with, hey, kind of stepping in as I was already big brother to them, but just kind of stepping in and filling the gap, right? So at the time, I had a 2-year-old daughter of my own. I wasn't married to my then first wife. But, it was clear to me that, hey, bringing those guys with me was the right thing, was the only thing, right? So fortunately, we had a good network. My youngest brother was able to go to his godmoms after a short transition, but my middle brother stayed with me until he went off to college at Frostburg. But it made me grow up real fast.
I was just going to say that. must have had to really have a lot of responsibility on you at that time.
No doubt, yeah.
Now, you talked about your time at the bank, and you said that you were mentoring. We had spoke before, and you talked to me about mentoring some of the youth in the Woodlawn area.
Yep.
And you also said that you've mentored youth in Aberdeen. Can you tell me a little bit about
Sure.
mentoring the kids?
100%. So Provident Bank, back in the early 2000s, had mentoring opportunities for the operations staff. We were in the Woodlawn area of Maryland, and we would mentor elementary school kids that were closer to that operational facility of Provident Bank. So we would go out, mainly obviously when they were doing a school year, like once or twice a month, just engaging the young people and kind of talking to them lightly about financial literacy, kind of trying to put the best effort forward during the school year, during the school day. Also spent some time mentoring at Provident. My second go around, when I was a branch manager, we literally went to local high schools for graduating seniors, speaking financial literacy, teaching them basic entry-level skills to onboard into, whether it's banking or other entities through Operation Hope had a partnership with not only Provident Bank, but the United Way at the time. Most recently, mentoring was at Aberdeen Middle School for middle school kids, 7th, 8th grade kids. A couple co-workers of mine at the APG area were already doing mentoring, and one of my good colleagues there said, hey, Greg, would you mind coming out and assisting with some of the mentoring things at Aberdeen Middle School?
So what kind of advice did you give the kids? What kind of, you've grown up, you grow up quick, you had a rough background as far as your family situation, your mom and all that kind of stuff. But can you tell us about how you connected to the kids? What was the connection?
Yeah, well, I think for me, it's a little deeper than that, right? Even coming up as a young person, God rest my mom's soul. She was a young mom. She didn't have a great network. She lost her mom at a young age, and she found herself, I would say, in unhealthy relationships is probably the best way I can kind of describe it. But my stepfather was a provider, but he was a heavy hand, right? He was one of those guys who you kind of got the spanking first and questions later, if you got them at all. And I wound up transitioning to my dad's house at 11 years old. I vividly remember her making a decision that, hey, this is an abusive situation here with myself, but I can't endanger my son. So I'm gonna put him in a better situation, and I was able to move him with my dad and my stepmom at the time. Stayed with them until I moved out on my own. But back to your point of, hey, why look out for the kids? I think as we live and move along in the age, right? I live to serve others, help others at every opportunity that I can, and I think it's important for those who have had adverse experiences, be it in upbringing, be it in job losses, be it in just disappointing situations, right? Letting young people know it's going to happen. There's no getting around it. It may have a different form. It may have a different presentation, your adversity, your challenge, your experience. But one of the things for me is to now what? Like, what are you going to do now that you've gone through that? And I've always lived my life in that vein. right? If somebody else got through it or got through something, I can too. So for me, it's kind of pouring into them, not only young people, right? I have adult kids myself, right? But reminding them that, hey, yes, this stinks. This situation is not ideal. However, right, if you put the work in and the effort in and the energy in, then you can kind of get around this or get beyond this, because it will have its impacts. But for me, that's kind of, whether it's seniors that I talk to, whether it's young people, colleagues, coworkers, friends, and they pour into me too. So it's not a one-way street. I think if you live your life and pouring into others, along the way they can pour into you.
Absolutely.
Back to your point of being a whole person.
If you had any advice for young people, what would you give them in today's world?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing, get after it, right? Whatever your it is, right? Get after it, right? Swing, fail, fail up, fail fast, whatever you want to do, get after it. Don't stay discouraged. Don't stay down if things didn't work out the way you thought they would or they ought to or you planned them to, because that's not really, at 52 years old, it hasn't been scripted for me. Right? It's the what you do after the crap has happened to you. So the biggest thing is to pour into them that, hey, things are going to go left. There's no doubt in my mind. Things are going to stink sometimes, but it's the figuring out, hey, what are my next steps? What skills do I need to acquire? What volunteering do I need to do to learn a new skill, right? Whether that's at a local barbershop, maybe I sweep the floor in between cuts so I can pick up a skill cutting hair, right? One thing I didn't share, I did some real estate investing as well, in between insurance, in and around working insurance and full-time jobs, because I'm a person of getting after and trying different things. And I've met tradespeople, HVAC guys, electricians, there's a lot of opportunity out here for folks, right? And it doesn't require just having a college degree. So that's the other big thing I would pour into young people. I have a degree, I have two, working on a third. But the biggest risk and the biggest reward for me have had nothing to do with college, right? So find your passion, identify it, pour into it, practice it, keep practicing it, keep honing it, keep trying it, and the biggest, just get after it. That's kind of my message.
Amen.
Yeah.
When you were younger and you went through your hardships with your mom and your brothers and all that, would it have made a difference to have a mentor in your life at that time? Did you have a mentor in your life?
Yeah, I would say it would have made a difference, but I also would say that be a sponge where your environment is, right? Again, my dad, still with us to this day. He was there. He was there when I needed him, man. I mean, it was coming out of a situation. He was just getting himself back on his feet at the time. But what I respect the most about him, man, I got the authentic version of him. Wasn't the most, eloquently speaking guy, but you knew where things were. You knew where things stood. You knew where you stood, right? So I would be remiss to say I didn't have a mentor, but, he gave it to me straight, man. And I love him for that. And it helped shape me even to this day. And even when I went through hardships professionally, he was the first to say, man, just rub it off and get back at it.
Yep.
And didn't let you stay and wallow in anything, So, I had different mentors. My grandfather was a huge part of my life. So, I didn't have a quote unquote direct mentor, but I had male figures around that made sure I got the messages that I needed to get.
Did you play any sports growing up?
I played Little League Baseball.
Little League Baseball?
Yeah. I wasn't that great at it, but I played it. That was helpful. At that time we had rec leagues going on, and I played, was all right at it, but not great. But definitely that was helpful to have after school kind of programs going on at the I want to say the Beachfield area, Baltimore City, Yale Heights area, and definitely enjoyed that. But I worked, man. I worked pretty much since 13. So I'll be 53 in a few weeks, man. I've been generating income for the last 40 years. Pops had a clothing stand. We sold snowballs. We sold T-shirts, socks, sweatsuits, Everything legal, of course. But
Got to do what you got to do.
you got to. I mean, and that was poured into me, right?
Yes.
You know, nothing was given to you, right? It wasn't a, you know, sit on your butt and wait on things, right? He taught me, and again, I love him for it. It's the reason that I do multiple things now.
Yes.
Because it was expected to get out there and get after it. So to your point of, did you play Little League Baseball? I played until about my 9th grade year. And then Pop said, okay, we need you to be working, you know. So I was a little irritated at that time, but I certainly understand it looking back, right? Hey, you know, you want a car, you want these things, you want this. I'm not giving you anything, right? I will create an opportunity, right, for you to work for those things. I love him for it, man, because it taught me so many things that school couldn't, right? But it was real. It wasn't I'm not just giving you a car, right? I'm not just giving you gas money. I'm not just giving you insurance, right? You have to, but if you come to work, you can generate enough money to do those things on your own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You talked about your time with the state police.
Yes, sir.
And did that form you? How did that resonate with your persona?
It shapes me to this day, right? Surprisingly, even though that was about 5 years total of service, a little less than 5 years. I have friends to this day that were mentors then that are my brothers for life.
Absolutely.
Right? It didn't end the way I wanted it to, or thought it should. But I look at one of those things, those experiences as, when you say that it shaped me, absolutely, because it helped kind of reinforce some of the values I already had. It helps me continue to kind of serve others and be a resource to others as best I can. But 100%, man, I have friendships to this day that have served me, you know, kept me sane in a lot of ways, right? You reach out to guys on the phone and just have authentic conversations about marriage, fatherhood, you know, ups, highs, lows, disappointments. You know, we've celebrated together, we vacationed together, so it definitely has 100% helped shape me overall as a professional, as a man.
Brothers for life.
For life, 100%.
No. Once you're in law enforcement, you're always in law enforcement.
100%.
Hey, Greg, I'd like to ask you about my organization. I want to bring this into it, the Push for More. The Push for More provides mentorship, networking, inspirational speaking engagements, and recreational activities to youth. Can you tell me how that would affect the community, how it would make things better for youth, having these kind of opportunities?
I wholeheartedly believe that anytime you can have young people doing things or seeing things that have a positive input on how their worldview is impacted, I think it's a blessing, man. I think, whether it's the daily news we see every day, life will kind of have you think that all things are bad all the time. So I think as a parent myself, as a grandfather of 2, getting them involved in different activities, playgrounds, swimming lessons, trips to the local amusement parks, showing up at their schools, little things like that, clapping when they do things well, congratulating them, celebrating them, is so critical right now, especially in an era of social media and everybody's got a phone at their fingertips, and they're so separated, even though it doesn't seem like they're separated. They're isolated into these little mini computers, and I think it helps form a self-doubt or self-scrutinization that is way more than we had to deal with as kids.
Absolutely.
Right? They put us outside and you stayed out there until the lights came on. You don't see kids outside, right? So I think any opportunity to get folks, particularly young folks, active, right? Physical activities, playgrounds, walking even, but engaging with things that are positive
and real,
right? And they have enough stress and drama up in their everyday lives, man. So anytime we can kind of get them engaging with things that are just good for them, right? You call it corny, wholesome, or whatever, but that are good for them,
yes.
Right? And to kind of be physically active and interacting with folks that have their well-being at heart. It's a win for me. That's why I'm here.
Thank you. Yeah, what we try to do is instead of having computers all around and cell phones and communicating that way, which we do some of that, but mostly the way we're going to interact with the youth is in person.
Yeah.
So they can have a tangible, professional person on their side, not to try to make them do certain things or persuade them in any kind of way, but to be a support mechanism for what they want to do.
Yeah.
And like you said before, go after it and help them achieve their goals and help them go after it. We also are going to try to involve law enforcement, military, doctors, teachers, social workers, business professionals, government people as mentors. So that's what we're trying to do, and I hope you would like to be a part of this.
100%. I definitely, we met at a networking function a couple months ago and interacted, hit it off really quickly and well. Told you then that if I'm able to support, I will.
Yes.
So that hasn't wavered for me. I think it's a good thing that you're trying to do, and you will do. I think that the bottom line in life is that what we pour into is what we get back.
Absolutely.
Right. So and you yourself have overcome some challenges trying to get this thing off the ground, and but you didn't stop. Right. So that's the bottom line. Right. Is to pour into young people that the roadblock is coming. Just eat that part of the hurt or the frustration, because it's coming and it's going to come again. It's going to come again. But it's the then what, right? And if we can pour that into them, all of our kids will be better off, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the bottom line.
And that's what this is all about. It's about the kids. It's about our community. It's about the mentors, inspiring mentors as well. So I appreciate you coming on today.
I appreciate you having me.
And you know what? That says a lot about your character. Coming in here on a day where you could be working, taking a half day for me. I appreciate that more than you can possibly imagine. So thank you 100 million times. And you did great.
I appreciate it.
And we'll meet again, my
friend.
We
will. Thank you so much for having me. Been a blast.
Care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Push for More podcast. To join our mentor network or appear on the podcast, feel free to reach out to us at thepushformore.com. And if you have the means, please consider making a tax-deductible contribution to help support our mission. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every little bit helps us push forward.
Round 2.